But time makes you bolder than children get older, and I'm getting older too. Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. The time makes you bolder when children get older. I'm getting older too. I'm getting older too. Good night, let me take it down. Climb a mountain and turn around. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, where the landslide came down. And if you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, where the landslide came down. Oh, landslide came down.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Hope your day and weekend is good. Tonight should be pretty fun. We're going to talk about movements and some oops, sorry, dear Lord. I'm glad you get to like stare at this head. I didn't even notice that. So, but tonight we get to talk about some movements of joint health. So joint arthritis, those kind of things. I want to take it from a different perspective, just like we kind of always do in understanding, what arthritis, like an degenerative arthritis joint looks like. Why does it occur? We kind of know that part, the wear and tear and the lack of motion. So what can we do to make ours better, and those kind of things. So tonight should be pretty interesting. Hopefully I do a good job. This would probably be a few part series, I would guess. But once I get you this understanding, it's some things that we can work on that aren't that out of the realm of possibility, right? So, and it could add to our 1% situation. So what I'm going to start with is our little things I found this week, helping with memory loss as we age. That's my first. These are the little nuggets I always do before we get into the main topic. So, helping with memory loss as we age. There's a few things you can do. Obviously, you hear about this one all the time, keeping an active lifestyle. But did you know staying away from linoleic acid, which is ALAs or deep frying, right? The oils and stuff that we use to cook all that deep fried stuff in, those are causing us major problems. Major problems. Could be one of the number one things that's messing our health up in general is the kind of the deep fried situation. So trying to avoid those as much as you can is a big deal. Mushrooms, different kinds of mushrooms. Lots of different ones out there, but they're such a big antioxidant that they're finding it's like a superfood for antioxidant health. And so that could be a huge one. Here are two that are pretty cool. Dr. Matt and I have done a video on this exact subject. So this is pretty good. Balancing exercises. Did you know that if I make you stand on your foot and you cannot balance for more than 10 seconds, that could immediately tell your doctor, hey, you got some kind of neurological problem. You should be able to do that. Now, what we find is like most people, if they're not like ready for it, obviously they're not going to do it well, so a lot of times even with a low back, you will know you're better. Here's a good example. So sciatic nerve. So sciatic nerve, when you have those disc pains and all those things, one of the best things I do after, like after somebody gets adjusted and they've treated and they're better, all of a sudden we can start saying, hey, do balance posture exercises. If you can stand on one foot for a minute, without moving, and we'll talk about that tonight, without like falling over, then your nerve in that leg is really, really good. Because a minute is a long time, but that is huge. So remember balance postures as you go, right? Walking backwards it seemed to help memory as well. So think about that. Like as you age, if you're worried about that, let's say you have a family member or something that they had some bad situation, like where they had Alzheimer's or those things, maybe adding these type of things in, balance postures, mushrooms, things that we know are going to help you because you have that program, right? You have that subconscious program that 95% of the time is running. So why not start adding routines 1% at a time to be able to do it? Okay. So those are the ones. Remember that. Walking backwards, balance exercises. Mushrooms are really good. Active lifestyle, obviously. And trying to stay away from the deep fried stuff. That's where we'll go with that. Oh my gosh. How cute is that? Look over my shoulder. Rosie's like hilarious. So we have this cool door that like shuts in between. So you can't hear if Rachel was watching TV or whatever, but that little dog is in the back. That's awesome. I don't know if you can see it on there. Anyway, all right. So another one today is ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo biloba helps well because we're talked about some memory stuff. Let's talk about that. Ginkgo biloba is really good for cognition, especially after a stroke. That's the new research out there. They're saying it could be a kind of a superfood for someone that struggled with like a stroke or those kind of things. So remember ginkgo. It's always been a good one for your cognition too. But they're finding huge results with it after a stroke, so that's good. Okay, so now my last one has a little combination of things. Celery juice. Celery juice is super good. It's like a superfood, kind of like beets. If you think about that, it's really good arterial. It has a ton of vitamins in it. I wrote down it's got calcium, phosphorus, potassium, vitamin C, folate, beta carotene, vitamin K, lutein. There's a lot of different vitamins within just celery in general. Highly recommended to even be part of your daily diet, because of that. Two reasons. One, you can do the celery juice situation. The celery juice is pretty cool. It has all those different vitamins in it. Celery itself is also one of the better fibers to have in your diet for what we always talk about with the gut bacteria. So so as you're watching this gut bacteria, like you have to have fibers. You have to have stuff for the gut bacteria to eat. So you got to remember, gut bacteria they are an alive organism. And so when you don't have it with a lot of fiber, or there's not a lot of good fiber in your diet, then they don't hold, or they don't thrive like they should. So with the celery, it's a really, really good one to add, like in stews, uh peanut butter and celery. That's always awesome. But those are kind of the things that you want to, kind of add to, and you're doing a lot of good. Celery juice just went on a huge fad a few years ago, and it was worth it. So, because celery juice is pretty nice, it tastes really, really good. So it's like a light, clean greens juice. So if you have a juicer, I would recommend doing something like that. If you don't, that's okay. It's just one of those things. So, all right. Without further ado, let me see. All right. All right. So without further ado, this is going to be kind of a mishmash of images and me talking more than actual videos or anything. So we're going to go to that. We share here. Get rid of that. And then we're going to go, let's go here first. Okay, so my first one, we're going to do a couple, let's go through the anatomies. Okay, so we're going to go, before we get into the videos of this, I want to show you the understanding and why it is so crucial to understand how this works. Okay. And everybody thinks too little, too late, or those kind of things. I have a different thought on this. And so mine is going to be a little possibly different than a lot of healthcare in general. Um, I believe if we can start understanding and taking care of our spring mechanisms, okay. So we have these spring forces that help us with all of our different mobility things. And you're going to notice one of the things that happens, it's hard to describe it, but it's almost like we're trying to keep joints that are supposed to lock together into space. So in essence, we're trying to do this like beautiful dance where everything is separated enough but not so separate that it doesn't work anymore, right? So it has to be this perfect dance. And a lot of times with each joint of our body, one of the things we lose track of, we think of strength, we think of, flexibility with like stretching, but in all reality, we never look at like opening those joints up and making sure the function of that joint is good. And so that's what we're going to go through a little bit tonight. Hopefully, it'll make sense by the end. So this is a picture of the bones of your feet. The reason I put the ligaments on there is this is a side view, but you can see how your foot is off the ground, right? You have this, consider it a muscle, but it's a bone ligament structure underneath that's keeping this like arch formation in the bottom of that foot. What it does that for is that arch doesn't stay there with every motion that you do. It actually acts as a buffer or a cushion. So it's actually like giving slightly. And when that giving allows the pressure that we put on our foot to drive all the way up our leg and not be as impactful. So when you're starting to look at the feet, a lot of times, and this is where we're going to talk a lot of the joint stuff. So feet are going to be crucial. So as we go up the chain from the ground up, you're going to see we're trying to keep those joints in the best position possible. And if you're able to, then you get more life out of that joint. And that's what we got to figure out, as we go forward. So that's what this kind of looks at. You don't have to know any of the ligaments tonight. I'm not going to make you do that, but you can see how it's set up. I just wanted you to kind of get a good look. How many joints? There's 23 bones in that foot that have to work perfectly each time. And that's a critical thing. All right. So now we're going to move on to this is the knee. Okay. Hopefully I got it. Okay, good. Hopefully it turns out good. It's looking okay on Facebook, so it'll be good. So the knee is the same thing. You can see you have muscles that are going across the joint. You see how like this big red one here with the one that has the label of the ligament on into your left. You see how it goes across the joint? That these muscles aren't necessarily to keep the bones together. They have ligaments for that. It is to make the motion of the knee and the bones within that work perfectly so that when that compression comes, you don't have a lot of wear and tear. Ergo, what is the bone arthritis stuff. So as you look at this, there's tons of ligaments, tons of muscle, and every motion is trying to do something. God wouldn't have gave you a bunch of muscles in each place to keep those joints working perfectly if he didn't need them to work perfectly. Okay. It would have been like one pulley and one string, right? That's, like, so there's a reason there are multiple muscles on like in each one. And if we could just break down just the knee, and there's 10 muscles just around one knee, right? And so all of those muscles, what you think we need all those? Of course we do. And it's all about the little tiny minute motions that occur in each one. Okay. So I think you're getting the idea of like what a space looks like. So that little meniscus thing is what they ride on. So you hear that a lot where there's like a torn meniscus or, those kind of things. That's what the knee is. It rides on that. And if there's too much pressure or the joint motion isn't right in there, then things happen to the meniscus. That's why you have a young kid say they tore their meniscus. It's when the injury occurs, it's because mechanically something happened to cause an injury to that inside part. Okay. All right. So here's a cool picture. And these are just like images off of Google. It was kind of fun. The It's just a cool picture of like what the muscles look around that bone and socket joint of your shoulder. Look how intricate that is. Just in this picture, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different muscles. That's just the front of your shoulder, people. There's like more stuff in the back. 9 muscles. Why would you? So if it's got to be an important piece of the puzzle, if we are designed to have 9 muscles move a 3 bone complex, okay, that tells you a lot. That tells you how important understanding how these motions work in there. All right. So then we'll go into the hip. Let's do that same thing. These are like the little ligaments. So you'll see there's ligaments in there that are white, and then the muscles. So we have one bit. So 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can guarantee you there's a lot more than that, but you can see that ball and socket. It hits in there perfectly. And your hip has to have every muscle working correctly. Like I always talk, Amy couldn't be here tonight, but typically when a massage therapist goes in to an area, the person they're working on is always shocked that they can find a muscle knot. They could have, the basic areas that they're thinking it's not there, and then all of a sudden they move their arm just slightly in a different way, and all of a sudden this muscle's horrific, right? One of the reasons that's happening is because of the motion of the joint isn't working correctly. And that therefore what happens is that motion doesn't get you there, right? So that is I think that's it. Yep. So that's my history lesson on what the joints kind of look like and why it's so important. These are the easiest to understand because it's like a few bones, like the spine is the same way. Every joint of your body is the same way. It's a little more intricate to understand, but this is what joint arthritis is from. Bad motion in any given joint. How do you get bad motion? Bad neurology. You could have your nervous system is compromised through your spine, right? So that's where we come in. There's bad habits. So programming habits, like we learn to walk in a funny way. There's a lot of different ways that this stuff can happen. What our job is tonight is to figure out little tiny 1% improvement ones that we can do tomorrow to start making sure we don't have to worry about that as much. So we're going to go into that. We're going to go into my different ones. Let's start with my favorite one that I thought was super cool. I love this, and from my experience over many, many years of doing this, I'm going to explain this as like why knees and hips and all these things, what I see. And this is not like a scientific, I didn't put any data to it or anything, but in my brain, this is one of the things. So let's go watch this guy.
or a seasoned pro that wants some new fancy tricks, you can do it. But first, let me ask you this. How long should the jump rope be, and what jump rope should you be using? Well, I would say the perfect length of a jump rope will be up here in the middle of your ribs. And one thing I created with my new jump ropes is this quick release button where you press it in and you can adjust the height and the length just like that. But I'm going to get back to that because I want to show you the very basic method of the jumping rope. You're going to start with the jump rope behind your feet here. Then you're going to do one big swing with the rope around your head like that. And then just before it comes to your feet, you're going to jump with 2 feet together like this. And then once you've done the jump one time, your arm swings will get a lot smaller and it'll turn into your wrists. Here it is. So the big swing to start, 2 feet together, and then we're just jumping like this. This is the basic way, the simplest way to jump rope. Now with the intermediate, what we're going to do, we're going to start with a big swing all the way around. Then we can do 1 foot at a time, stepping. So you're kind of running on the spot as your wrists are going round. And it looks like this. Now we're stepping. Then keep doing that where they're running on the spot. And when you get comfortable doing that, you can start doing 2 steps on one side, then 2 steps on the other side. 2 on your left, 2 on your right. 2 on your left, 2 on your right. And then once you get comfortable with that, you can do 2 steps on your left, but you're going to kick out your opposite foot. 2 steps on your right, kick out your opposite foot. Now, the benefits of doing this is it's helping with your coordination. It's training your brain to do something more advanced. So I highly recommend you learn how to do this before you move on to the more advanced and the expert tips that I'm about to give you. Now, moving on to the advanced. You've seen Rocky Balboa do this, so you know it's advanced. And what that is crossing your arms as you're doing the jump rope. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to start off with the intermediate, 1 foot after the other, and then when the rope's coming in front of you, you're going to cross your arms all the way around like this. And a common mistake I see when I'm teaching this is people will cross the arms and they'll bring them here. You need to have your arms a lot wider so you can get your body over the top of the rope like that. And then you're going to bring it around, and then you can go back into the intermediate stuff. You will then do a couple of 1 steps, then add in the cross. A couple of 1 steps, add in the cross. And get comfortable doing that before we're going to move on to the next thing, which is constantly crossing, which looks like this. As you can see here, I'm doing 1 cross back to normal, 1 cross back to normal, 1 cross back to normal. And once you get the rhythm with this, it becomes really easy. And then, if you get comfortable doing that, you can do multiple crosses at the same time, like this. Now, the other advanced thing that we're going to work on before we go.
All right, very cool. So as you can see, let me go. Why did I show you that one? That one is on there because I love the jump rope. I think that one is a huge deal on joint health. It's hard. One of the reasons why I see our hip arthritis, joint, knee arthritis, those kind of things start to occur is because I believe we start losing our feet neurology. And so with our feet not understanding like how they move up and down, we wear basic big shoes, walk on cement all day. The neurology of our feet they're used constantly. So what happens is they don't have the good nerve fibers that they used to when you're a kid. Like like as you're walking in the fields, you can kind of feel that stuff. It's a beautiful thing, like as you go. But one of the things of the jump rope kind of initiates you going back into that level where you're using every part of you, using your toes, you're using that. I love that guy because it's like a lot of that was a little impossible. It takes a while to get to where that guy was. However, learning how to do it again, and now they make really good ropes. Like I have one that's fantastic, kind of similar to his. They're a little pricier. They're not the old ones that you had in school, but there's a reason neurologically, jump rope was in your elementary schools. One of the crazy things for me is as an like watching coaching now, that would be my first warm up for almost every kid, like with engagement patterns. Like it would get you if a kid could just jump rope for a little bit. It is so good when you start doing that. Okay. So the reason I'm bringing that up though is what we have to engage that foot. We have to get the neurology of your foot going in the right direction. It's when we start, let's say you work at a factory, right? So you have this foot. You also have this steel-toed shoe. So the steel-toed shoe is not allowed. So if your foot is here, the motion is actually like in a wave form. Okay. What happens in current life, and as we walk on these like metal or these cement areas, we pound like this. And some ladies, like even if you have like a heel on your shoe, you're actually pounding this way, right? So there's not a nice even flow to what happens because of the surface usually, and when a steel toe shoe, that toe doesn't that big toe doesn't get to rise and cause you to move on to the next step. What I like to do is if that's a thing, you're not going to change your job tomorrow, but what if you got into jump rope like after work, right? So use it as part of your workout. It takes no time, like zero. You can just do it and you'll get your butt kicked in, a minute and a half, really. So it's one of those that, you think about doing that, like as one of those lifts, as we go. So I just wanted to show you that one. I get most excited about the jump rope. I think it should be like a mainstay in everybody's house. I think the coordination, being able to do those things in such a small period of time is fantastic. So, all right, let's get out of this. I remember how to do that. Oh, where do I gotta go? Oh, there we go. Okay. So this one, now we're going to talk about, let's start with, these are really, really short. I just want to show you the different things. Let's look at the knee mobility first, and then I will go into each exercise after.
In today's video, we're looking at knee mobility, ways to test your range of motion to make sure you have full knee mobility, and then exercises you can implement. Maybe you've had a recent injury, or you had an injury in the past. You're wondering, do I have my range of motion back? Maybe you've been put in a brace and immobilized, and you're trying to figure out how to get that mobility back. If those are things you're struggling with, stay tuned for today's video. All right, so our knee joint is kind of an interesting joint. It's technically called a condyloid joint, which means it can go through flexion extension, kind of like a hinge joint. Our elbow is very similar. But what's interesting about the knee, and a fact that most people don't know about, is that it also can rotate. So the lower bone in our knee, the tibia, can actually go through internal and external rotation. And those are movements we want to check to optimize knee health. First, we'll start with the sagittal plane flexion and extension. So with flexion, what you want to look for is the knee should be able to bend to around 135 or 145 degrees, basically up like that. Now, it's going to vary from person to person depending on the size of your legs. If you've got bigger or smaller calf muscles or hamstrings, this is what stops the movement or the soft tissues coming together. But if we look at the textbooks, most people will get somewhere between 135 and 145 degrees. So what you want to do is first check that. If you have limited range of motion, then you want to just work on improving that mobility. So first, what we have people do is just actively, this is called a heel slide, but just slide your heel up, see how far you can actively bend, and eventually you're going to hit a stopping point where it's hard to move any farther. And then what I have people do is just simply grab your hands and pull up to a point where you feel some tightness, not pain, but get to a point where you feel some tightness. And then you just want to kind of hang out here and let it stretch as long as you can. Joints respond better to long stretches. So muscles, we might do 15 to 30 seconds. A joint, you could literally be here from 2 to 10 minutes. So find that point where it starts to stretch, it's tolerable, there's not a lot of pain, and then just try to hold it. And if you can do that several times a day, maybe 3 to 4 times a day, it will really help improve mobility more quickly. So the second sagittal plane movement is extension, which is just straightening your knee. Most people have 5 to 10 degrees of hyperextension in their knee. Which basically means if your knee is flat on the ground and you squeeze your muscles, you could be able to lift your heel up like that. So not everyone has this. Basically, you're just looking at, can your knee get to 0 straight like this? And maybe you check your other side. If your other side can hyperextend, that's probably where you want to get back to. So if you've had an injury on one side and you can check the other side, how far does that one move? That's kind of your goal. So I can actively get a bit of hyperextension here. Say your other side could do that and you can't over here, you've lost some extension. A really easy way to stretch this part of your joint is to just take a book or a yoga block, something like that, just set it on the ground and put your heel on it, and then you're just going to let gravity do the work for you. So I'm just going to let my leg drop down, and gravity is just going to pull that knee joint into extension. Sometimes even this isn't enough stretch, and I have people put, like ankle weights up here on top of their knee. In the clinic, sometimes we even use a heavy heat pack, so it kind of warms it up and stretches it. Again, like the bending movement, hang out here. You could be here for 5 to 10 minutes. Let that joint just slowly stretch. Let that mobility improve. And again, sometimes we'll have people do these things 3 to 5 times throughout the day when they're really trying to get their mobility back. Okay, so that is our second movement, knee extension. Okay, so we've covered knee flexion and extension, which again are our primary knee movements, but now we want to look at the transverse plane of motion and internal and external rotation. So what you're going to do, you have to be in a sitting position. We need the knee to be around 90 degrees of bend to really work on internal and external rotation. So you're going to sit, your knee bent like this, and then what you're going to do is I'm going to keep my heel on the ground. I'm going to lift the top part of my foot, and I'm going to pivot. So I'm pivoting on my heel. Now, try not to turn your ankle around. Try to keep your ankle in sort of a straightforward, neutral position, and then just rotate your heel. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to cause this lower bone of my knee, the tibia, this is external rotation when my foot turns out, and then internal rotation is when my foot goes in. Now, in terms of range of motion values for internal rotation, we get less movement. It's about 10 degrees of tibial internal rotation. And external rotation, we get quite a bit more. The normals for that are 30 to 40 degrees. Again, just compare to your other side. Look at it. If you haven't had an injury on the other side, you can kind of look at it and see, okay, what does that side get? That could kind of be a loose goal. And then go back to your side that's a little stiff and turn it in. You can also use your hand. Again, we usually can't move as far with our muscles, so it's useful to use hands or a tool. And I can kind of take and spin my tibia into internal rotation and kind of mobilize it and stretch it. Okay. And then with external rotation, the same thing. I can turn out as far as I can, and then I can use my hands to sort of create more external rotation, kind of guide it and kind of hang out there and stretch. Again, these are joint stretches, so you can be here for several minutes to really loosen up that joint tissue. Okay. So those are our 4 movements we're going to do for the knee. We've got flexion, extension, and then internal and external rotation. So give those a try. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section and I'll get back to you. All right, you guys, see.
All right. So that was really good. I like it. Biggest thing is like as he is going. So remember as we do this, okay, that rotation is huge. And if you saw the motion he was doing was really important. So that kind of motion, let's say you hurt your knee or, those kind of things. When you start having those things, these are things you can do on your own as soon as it starts happening. So you can test that, like if I ever get hurt, right? So like, let's say a shoulder or things, I got a lot of tools around me that make it a little easier. That's always good. But the other thing that I do have is the ability to understand what he was talking about. So understanding, making sure you go to those end ranges as comfy as you can, right? And some of you won't have hardly any of that motion that he just showed. But what I've seen absolutely that you can revert, you can change that. I've seen people go from almost no movement, like 90 degrees in their knee, to almost like full where he was talking, like almost to there. And a lot of times when we start talking about that, instead of ignoring it, we do the 5 minutes of work, right? So if you hurt your knee or it's not moving correctly, so there should be in your day, either morning or at night, an evaluation of like how all your joints are moving. If you have some stiffness, that's one where you want to work on that. So just remember that as, an everyday thing. How are my joints doing? It should be a question we all ask. I tell all my office, like we open, or my patients know I don't open the door in the morning before patients get in there without doing my stretches. So I don't expect, you know, I would, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't expect you to do it, you know, as we go. So I go through a series of different things, and tonight's a lot of them, you know, like balancing. I do a lot of balancing. I do a lot of like full body squat type deal on my tiptoes. So like those kind of things, just to feel all those joints. I'll notice a hit, let's say my knee is tighter this week than it was last. That's when I'll know what to do the work on. Okay. So these are just little things, but they're super cool. I want to show you a couple others. These are real quick screen shares. So, or real quick videos, actually, only like a minute apart. So I'm going to show you why. So let's start. The calf raise one is one of my favorites.
This exercise is just a calf raise, very simple.
I'm gonna just mute it because it's not that big a deal. So what we want to do in normal calf raises are pretty easy. So you see he's doing one already. So you just get up on your tiptoes and come back down. Get up on your tiptoes. You can make it even harder. You can get on a stair. You can go down further, go up. Now, one of the things I'm going to suggest is what the guy said in the video before, is that you have several planes that your foot is sitting into, your knees and your hips. So what occurs is I want you to test those. So I want you to like pigeon toe your feet. Okay. This is what I do for every leg workout that allows me to do it. I pigeon toe and then I'll do the movement. So like on calf raises, I'll do 10 sets with my toes in, 10 sets with my toes straight, and then 10 sets with my toes out. What that allows me to do is test each motion while I'm doing the exercise, right? So if there's something, but it also tells my brain and my muscles that, hey, I'm going to use that entire plane, not just here. I feel like a lot of times, because I love weightlifting, it's been a joy the last month and a half to get back in the gym. I don't, for some reason, like get away from it, and then just to get on a good pattern now that I am right now. But a lot of times like when you get into that weightlifting world, a lot of times we don't think about that because we focus more on the weight versus this. So I will do a ton of movements that have a lot of stressors on different muscles because I'm not going for the look, I'm going for the strength, right? So this is one of those. Calf raises are great. You just go pigeon toe, straight, toe out, and then you'll be pretty good. So this is what it looks like though. So it looks kind of up and down. Yeah, they're pretty basic. You can go up and down. You don't need a lot for that one. And that's another one. You can just start in your kitchen getting your coffee, getting that one. Okay. So that one's that. So calf raises is a really good one. I'm going to show you a couple you didn't think about. This one's awesome. Okay.
Place
So
your elbows below your shoulders, the hands with the palms on the ground and onto your toes. This will create a straight line from the shoulders to the heels. Hold this position for approximately 10 seconds. If you are able to maintain this posture and hold longer, you may do so. If you begin to lose posture by dipping down or rolling side to side, then you have performed this for too long. The key here is to maintain good posture for as long as you are able to. Take the amount of time you are able to hold the position and complete however many repetitions you need to add up to 60 seconds. This may be either 4 sets of 15 seconds, 3 sets of 20 seconds, or even 6 sets of 10 seconds. If this is too difficult for you, you can perform this exercise by placing your knees on the ground and arms in the same position, and again holding for an accumulated total of 60 seconds with good posture.
and for me on the plank, I'm going to show you this one before we talk too. Let me do this next one. This one's cool. This one's pretty cool. This one's real quick. All right.
Side plank with abduction. Come up into a side plank and then lift the top leg and come back down. Maintain stabilization with the bottom hip as well as you can. You can also put the arm straight down your side, lift that top leg.
Okay. I wanted just to show you a couple examples. There's a lot of other easier ones out there, obviously, but I don't want you Oops, shoot, hang on. I don't know what that was. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay. So a lot of times, like those kinds, those planks, the reason planking. So the reason I've focused, I should have grabbed some more shoulder stuff, but I'll make sure we get into that as well. Shoulder planks, it's a really good place to start. I like the ones where you're on your hands, honestly. I think we have to get to that point. A lot of stuff we were like, as we were told, hey, we can't do that. Oh, I can't. I was told I'm not allowed to do that. Those kind of things. But that doesn't mean you can't go for that as a goal. Absolutely. Like where planks are a great example. I'm probably the only robotics coach that ever had kids doing planks on the floor. But it's kind of hilarious because kids will be like, well, I can't do a full plank, so I'll just do it this way. I'm like, that's fine. But it brought up the idea that like not that the kid couldn't do it. That's what it is. But our ultimate goal should always be do it. But he was like, literally, his program was going to be, I can't do it. And he was going to keep that program for a long time. So I said, change your words. Maybe I can't, or I have trouble with the full one, so I'm going to try something else. Never say I can't do it, because then you can't, right? So that's where I say limit, like with these type of movements where we're testing our shoulders, we're testing our, like I want you. This is my challenge. It might take a year, but if you do it, I want to know. I want you to be able to do a plank on your fingertips. That's what I want. That's crazy. I know, those kind of things. But, like if we can have that as our goal, even if it's a 2-second thing. One of my favorites is that side plank that you saw that lady do. Rachel was taking a video of me doing it, and it was there's another level where you're not on your elbow, you're on your hand. So I was doing it, and I did not last 2 seconds. But the best part was she snapped the picture perfect to where it looked like I've been holding it for 2 minutes. And we were laughing so hard because we knew as soon as that picture was taken, I collapsed basically. I fell on the thing. I was like, oh, that was tough. That's a lot tougher. But those are the things I want you to challenge your body. The human body, like that's where this joint arthritis comes from. It's wear and tear of the programming. The programming, the day-to-day programming is what is getting us. And so we have to start doing stuff. So that's all I got for tonight. But I have Julie, if you would like, Julie, I'm gonna bring you on if you have any questions for me. There she is. You are good.
Yes. As you're talking about celery, what am I eating?
Yeah.
Celery with almond butter on it.
Almond
I love celery.
Well, it's so good for probiotics. So it gives your body, it's one of the better fibers to have like for your little probiotic guys.
Well, I just
Celery,
love
they came out with it. Do you have a juicer, Julie?
Yes, I do.
They're a pain in the butt. So a lot of times,
Well,
like
this one
I
is
love
supposed
them.
to be pretty nice.
Yeah, I
haven't
love
used
them.
it yet.
They are so good. Like the juicer type situation. You just got to get used to using it because it's one of those where it's like you got to clean it pretty good and those all those things. But we love it once we remember to pull it out again. Celery is one of my favorites too. There's one. I had this old book one time years ago, and he had these really cool. You can find all kinds of juices on the internet now, but
Yeah.
my favorite was beet, carrot, apple, and then
I
celery.
heard-
Yeah, beet, carrot, apple is crazy because you have the beets, which is really good for your colon. You go with beets. Carrot, apple, it just tastes good. Those are really good. Celery is in a lot of different recipes that you can do very easy. And you get that benefit. And then if you add a little celery, like eating celery, you get that benefit. So how was that with the joint stuff? So it's pretty cool. Like as we go into this joint movement type situation, but very distinct. You got to go after each joint individually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm really glad. I think you should, I don't know how to do this, but offer a class where we can come in and learn these exercises, not coming back every week to do it, but it's
Yes.
difficult to learn to do them properly. And then it's a good reminder. So that would be my suggestion.
I am
And
so glad
I'd
you
even help
brought
you
that
out
up.
with it.
I'm so glad you brought that up because our 1%, our first 1% tribe thing at my home this summer, at some point, will have that part. So we're going to talk, it's going to be a course, like an all-day course. And what we're going to do is a couple hours of mindset, a couple hours of herbals, and then a couple hours of movements. And this is the exact movements I would start with. So that's kind of our first one's going to be called the we're going to go after the anti-inflammatory. So we're pretty pumped. Amy's in on board. I got Dr. Matt. So they're all fantastic. We're going to be able to like knock it out into what everybody thinks, and it should be fantastic. So hold that. That is a great point. But that because a lot of times we think yoga, right? And we think strength. So we think like I do. I think weightlifting all the time. Well, a lot of times you don't even need to do any of those. Evaluation of your joint space is really good. Like, are my joints working from side to side? Either one. And then what happens is like when we don't, we kind of panic and stop moving it more, right? So if somebody has limited range in their knee, right? So they're like, "Oh, I can't do it. I can't do more." Well, that's when you should get going on it, right? So you can teach that knee to what to do, but we can't wait until later when others, you can't wait until it becomes a problem that you don't, like it goes away. We get a new pattern of walking and those kind of things. So yeah, that was good.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
thank you for telling me about balance. For a while there,
Yes.
I was struggling, but I've been a little bit working on it. And the other thing that I'll push out there is now I am taking exercise class with the seniors. I
Good.
absolutely hate that word because it puts
I
me in a
know.
category and I don't think like a senior. But I have to admit the exercises they are doing are actually promoting range of motion.
So cool.
So, in that respect, it's been helpful. I've been thinking of exercising and I'm going to pull out my jump rope
Yep.
and I've been
Try it.
taking Chi. Now, Tai
Yeah.
Chi is to me, it's slowing me down because I'm a go, go, go. And Tai Chi is forcing me to really concentrate on my motions. And
Yes.
that's been very interesting. I like it.
It's so cool. Everything you just said is exactly what somebody has to do. Now you will do this because me and you talk quite a bit. Some people, I just want us as a world to take just partial of those movements, like the stuff out of your senior exercise course, the Tai Chi. Something in there can be integrated every single day so that the next time you go to the course where you're really concentrating on it, you get a little better. Like, and that is all you can ask for. But what I've noticed is the more we can add to our day in that direction, the better off. And then like the day, I always say like I exercise a lot and then I play or I have a routine I do. I got a little gym here, those kind of things. Well, I get to once a week, hopefully every once a week, we try to play like men's basketball. So I'll go play that. Well, that takes me out of, I don't have to do the other exercises, right? So I'm not going to do basketball on top of that because that leads to another stuff. But like the Tai Chi course, you have that. You don't need to do a bunch of stuff if you're going to Tai Chi. you just have to think of these little things as we go, and just keep improving each day. So awesome. Well, that is,
Absolutely.
yes,
Say what you want, not what you don't want.
right. Exactly.
And I still think that is very, very big. I declare a lot of things every day.
Mhm.
Do I see them happening yet? No, but that
Nope.
doesn't mean they're not. I just
Correct.
haven't seen it yet. So I keep declaring, I keep
Right.
saying what I want, not what I don't want.
Right. It's been given to us. We just haven't caught up to it. That's what I
Well,
like.
we've been told to believe other things. We've been
Right.
told that you can't do this stuff.
Yep.
Say what you want. It's not hard. Just say what you want.
Yep. And keep going on the direction. Use
Yeah.
the Google Maps and keep following the directions to it. But it might not be the directions you want. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that part. All right. All right. I'll talk to you guys next week.